In the quiet, rolling hills of rural Montana, where the wind whispered secrets through the golden wheat fields and the sun dipped low behind jagged mountains each evening, lived Elena Ramirez, a single mother who had traded the chaos of her past for the serene rhythm of farm life, raising her 10-year-old son, Mateo, on a modest plot of land inherited from her late husband, a man whose memory lingered like a gentle ghost in the creaking barn doors and the faded photographs on the mantel. But little did the locals know that Elena's unassuming demeanor hid a history forged in the fires of elite military service. As a former Green Beret sniper whose sharpshooting skills had once turned the tide in shadowy operations across distant war zones, operations that left her with scars both visible and unseen, driving her to seek solitude after her discharge, vowing never to pick up a rifle again unless the stakes were life itself. The trouble began subtly, like storm clouds gathering on the horizon, when a group of local bullies, led by Harlan Crow, a burly real estate developer with a reputation for strong-arming small farmers into selling their land for his sprawling subdivisions, set their sights on Elena's farm, seeing it as the last puzzle piece in his grand plan to transform the valley into a gated community for wealthy outsiders, complete with golf courses and luxury homes that would erase the rustic charm she cherished. Harlan's crew, a ragtag band of enforcers including his hot-headed nephew Jax, a former high school football star turned petty criminal, and a couple of hired goons named Vince and Rocco, started with petty intimidations, slashing tires on her old pickup truck, poisoning a section of her corn crop with chemicals snuck in under the cover of night, and scrawling threatening graffiti on her barn walls that read, "Sell or suffer," all while spreading rumors in town that Elena was an unfit mother, struggling to keep the farm afloat since her husband's untimely death in a farming accident 5 years prior, an accident that Elena always suspected wasn't entirely accidental but could never prove. Mateo, with his wide-eyed innocence and curly hair that mirrored his father's, noticed the changes first, asking his mother why the animals seemed restless and why strangers lurked at the edges of their property line, but Elena brushed it off with a reassuring smile, telling him stories of brave knights protecting their castles, all while her trained instincts kicked in, noting the patterns of their visits, the black SUVs with tinted windows that idled on the dirt road after dusk, the footprints in the mud that matched heavy boots, and the distant glint of binoculars from the treeline where someone watched her every move. As the harassment escalated, Harlan made his first direct approach, pulling up in his gleaming Escalade one crisp autumn morning, his face twisted into a false smile as he offered her a generous buyout, claiming the land was worth more in his hands and that a fragile woman like her shouldn't be burdened with such hard labor, words that ignited a flicker of rage in Elena's eyes, though she kept her composure, politely declining and watching him drive away with a promise that he'd be back, his parting shot being a veiled threat about how accidents happen on isolated farms. That night, the bullies struck harder. They cut the power lines to her house, plunging the farm into darkness, and as Elena fumbled for her flashlight, she heard the crash of breaking glass from the barn, followed by the terrified whinnies of her horses. Rushing out with Mateo safely locked inside, she confronted Jax and Vince, who were dousing hay bales with gasoline, laughing like hyenas as they prepared to torch the place, but Elena's voice cut through the night like a blade, warning them to leave before they regretted it, a warning they dismissed with crude jeers about her being just a lonely widow playing farmer. In that moment, something snapped within her. The ghosts of her past missions resurfaced, the muscle memory of countless hours on the range, the cold calculation of wind speed and bullet drop, and she retreated into the shadows, grabbing an old hunting rifle from her husband's collection, not her military-issued M24 but close enough, positioning herself on the rooftop with a vantage point that overlooked the barn, her breathing steady as she chambered around, aiming not to kill but to warn, firing a single shot that shattered the gasoline can in Vince's hand, sending flames licking harmlessly into the dirt as the men scattered in panic, cursing and fleeing into the night, unaware that the quiet mother had just revealed a glimpse of her lethal precision. Word spread quickly in the small town, with Harlan dismissing it as a lucky shot from some hidden farmhand, but he doubled down, hiring more muscle and orchestrating a smear campaign that involved anonymous calls to child services, accusing Elena of endangering Mateo with her reckless behavior, forcing her to endure humiliating visits from social workers who poked around her home, questioning her stability while she maintained her calm facade, all the while teaching Mateo basic self-defense moves under the guise of games, preparing him for what she feared was coming. The first twist came when Elena discovered a hidden connection. While digging through old documents in her attic, she found letters from her husband revealing that Harlan had been pressuring him to sell before his death, and a suspicious autopsy report buried in the county records suggested foul play, perhaps a tampered brake line on the tractor that killed him, linking Harlan directly to her personal tragedy, fueling her resolve not just to protect her farm but to seek justice, transforming her from a passive victim into a calculated avenger. As winter's chill set in, the bullies amped up their tactics, blockading her driveway with felled trees during a snowstorm, isolating her from supplies, but Elena, drawing on her Green Beret survival training, fashioned snowshoes from branches and trekked miles to town for essentials, all while setting up perimeter traps, non-lethal snares and tripwires connected to alarms, that caught Rocco one night, leaving him dangling upside down from a tree until morning, humiliated and frostbitten, screaming for help as Elena calmly cut him down and sent him packing with a message for Harlan: "This ends now." But Harlan, enraged, plotted his boldest move yet, gathering his full crew for a midnight raid, armed with bats and crowbars, intending to trash the house and scare her into submission, unaware that Elena had anticipated this, her sniper's patience turning the farm into a fortress of hidden positions, with Mateo safely hidden in a secret cellar her husband had built for emergencies. As the men approached under the cover of darkness, Elena perched in a camouflaged blind high in an old oak tree, her rifle scope scanning their heat signatures through the thermal lens she'd improvised from scavenged parts, picking them off one by one with precision shots, disabling a knee here, grazing an arm there, sowing chaos without fatalities, her mind flashing back to desert ambushes where every bullet counted, but this time, it was personal, her maternal fury blending with military discipline. Jax, the hot-headed nephew, charged forward blindly, firing wildly with a pistol he'd smuggled, but Elena's shot disarmed him, the bullet ricocheting off his gun and embedding in a tree, leaving him cowering as his uncle Harlan emerged from the shadows, bellowing orders and revealing his own weapon, a shotgun aimed at the house where he thought Mateo slept. In a heart-pounding twist, Harlan shouted a confession in his rage, admitting to sabotaging her husband's tractor years ago to force the sale, a revelation that Elena captured on a hidden recorder, her evidence finally secured, but the danger peaked when Harlan spotted her position, blasting buckshot that splintered the tree trunk, forcing her to leap to the ground in a roll that echoed her paratrooper days, engaging in close-quarters combat, her knife skills disarming him as she pinned him down, her voice a lethal whisper: "You targeted the wrong mother." As sirens wailed in the distance, summoned by a neighbor who'd heard the shots, the bullies scattered, but not before another twist unfolded. One of Harlan's goons, Vince, turned out to be a former comrade from Elena's unit, a deserter she'd once covered for in Afghanistan, who recognized her in the melee and switched sides, helping subdue the others and later testifying against Harlan in court, his guilt-ridden confession unraveling the entire operation. With the farm safe and Harlan behind bars for manslaughter and extortion, Elena stood on her porch at dawn, watching the sun rise over her fields, Mateo by her side, the quiet life restored but forever changed, her secret past now a badge of strength rather than a burden, teaching her son that true bravery lies in protecting what you love, even if it means dusting off old skills in the face of unrelenting bullies. Yet, as peace settled, a final twist emerged when Elena received an anonymous letter, hinting at a larger syndicate behind Harlan's schemes, pulling strings from the city, suggesting her fight was far from over, leaving her to ponder whether to hang up her rifle for good or prepare for the shadows that might return, her Green Beret spirit unyielding in the heart of Montana's vast expanse. Elena's farm was more than just land, it was a sanctuary, a place where she had buried her medals and memories deep in the soil, planting rows of vegetables and raising livestock as therapy for the nightmares that still plagued her sleep, visions of sand-swept battlefields and the crack of her sniper rifle echoing through enemy lines, missions where she had eliminated high-value targets from impossible distances, earning her the nickname, Ghost Eagle, among her Special Forces team, a name she hadn't uttered in years. Mateo, oblivious to his mother's heroic past, idolized her as the strongest person he knew, helping with chores like feeding the chickens and milking the cows, his laughter filling the air as they baked pies from the apple orchard, but the bullies' intrusion shattered that idol, starting with small acts that escalated into a war of attrition. Harlan Crow wasn't just a developer, he was a man with deep pockets and deeper grudges, having lost his own family farm to bankruptcy decades ago, fueling his obsession with acquisition, viewing Elena's refusal as a personal affront, enlisting Jax, who harbored his own demons from a failed athletic career and substance abuse, to lead the dirty work, while Vince and Rocco, ex-cons with tattoos snaking up their arms, followed orders for the paycheck. The night after the barn incident, Elena sat by the fire, cleaning the rifle with practiced hands, her mind mapping out the terrain like a tactical overlay, identifying choke points and escape routes, teaching Mateo to stay low and quiet if trouble came, framing it as an adventure to shield him from fear. The social services visit was a low blow, the worker, a stern woman named Ms. Hargrove, scrutinizing every corner, noting the rifle cabinet and questioning Elena's fitness, but Elena's calm responses and spotless home won the day, though it left her seething, prompting her to reach out to an old military contact, Sergeant Mills, now a private investigator, who dug into Harlan's background, uncovering financial ties to a corrupt mayor who stood to gain from the development. This revelation added a layer of conspiracy, twisting the narrative from local bullying to systemic corruption. As Elena realized her farm sat on land rich with untapped natural gas reserves, the real prize Harlan coveted. As snow blanketed the fields, the blockade trapped them for days, forcing Elena to ration food and melt snow for water, her Green Beret survival skills keeping them alive, building a windbreak from hay bales, starting fires with flint when matches ran low, while Mateo, resilient as his mother, turned it into a camping game. But the isolation weighed heavy, memories of being pinned down in enemy territory resurfacing, sharpening her senses. When Rocco fell into the trap, his cries piercing the night, Elena interrogated him briefly, learning of the planned raid, giving her time to fortify, booby-trapping the approaches with noisemakers and caltrops made from nails, positioning decoys to draw fire. The raid unfolded like a symphony of chaos, Harlan's men advancing in a loose formation, their flashlights bobbing like fireflies, but Elena's first shot took out the lead vehicle's tire, stranding them, followed by systematic takedowns, her scope crosshairs dancing from target to target, whispers of, "one shot, one kill," in her mind, though she aimed for mercy, wounding to incapacitate. Jax's wild shooting grazed her shoulder, a superficial wound that burned like fire, but she pressed on, the pain fueling her, until Harlan's confession spilled out, a cathartic moment that healed old wounds about her husband's death, the recorder hidden in her pocket capturing every word. Vince's betrayal was the ultimate twist, his face paling as he recognized her tattoo, a unit insignia on her arm, muttering, "Ghost Eagle." In disbelief, dropping his weapon and tackling Jax to the ground, his redemption arc born from years of regret over abandoning their team during a botched op, where Elena had saved his life at great risk. As law enforcement arrived, lights flashing across the snow, Harlan was cuffed, his empire crumbling, the mayor implicated in the fallout, leading to arrests that cleaned up the town. In the aftermath, Elena tended her wound, hugging Mateo tight, promising a future free of threats, but the letter arrived weeks later, postmarked from the city, containing a map highlighting her farm and warnings of bigger players, hinting at corporate overlords with eyes on the gas reserves, forcing Elena to dust off her full arsenal, contacting her old team for backup, setting the stage for potential sequels where the quiet mother becomes a legend once more. The farm flourished in spring, flowers blooming as symbols of renewal, Mateo planting seeds with newfound confidence, while Elena trained in secret, her sniper's eye ever vigilant. The Bullies, defeat a testament to underestimated strength, twists of fate weaving a tapestry of resilience and revenge in the heartland. Elena's days began at dawn, the rooster's crow pulling her from fitful sleep, where dreams of Kabul and Fallujah mingled with the scent of fresh earth, her hands calloused from both triggers and plows, as she prepared breakfast for Mateo, pancakes drizzled with honey from their bees, watching him devour it before school, his backpack slung over tiny shoulders, the bus stop a mile walk where she accompanied him, scanning for suspicious vehicles. The Bullies' initial vandalism was childish, fence posts pulled up, livestock let loose to wander, but it wore on her, repairing damages that drained her savings, forcing her to sell a cow to make ends meet, all while Harlan's offers increased, delivered via slick lawyers who knocked on her door with contracts thick as Bibles. One evening, as twilight painted the sky purple, Jax snuck onto the property, attempting to tamper with the well, but Elena, alerted by motion sensors she'd installed, solar-powered gadgets from her military surplus, confronted him with a shotgun, not firing but holding him at bay until he fled, muttering slurs. This incident reported to the sheriff, a lazy man in Harlan's pocket who dismissed it as pranks. The plot thickened when Elena uncovered emails on her husband's old computer, hacked passwords revealing correspondence with Harlan's company, threats veiled as business proposals, and a mention of taking care of the problem, confirming her suspicions, driving her to the county clerk's office under cover of a storm, photocopying records that showed altered accident reports, a twist that implicated the sheriff too. Mateo's role grew, the boy discovering a hidden cache of his father's tools, including a drone he fixed with Elena's guidance, using it to survey the farm, capturing footage of the Bullies' reconnaissance, evidence she stored on a secure drive. The winter blockade was grueling, days without power, huddling by the wood stove, telling stories of her adventures abroad, sanitized versions where she was a scout rather than a killer, bonding them closer. Rocco's capture yielded intel on Harlan's safe house, a cabin in the woods where plans were hatched, prompting Elena to scout it one night, her stealth skills allowing her to plant a bug, listening in on conversations that revealed the raid's details and the gas reserve secret, a geological survey buried in public records she later browsed at the library. The raid's climax was intense, shots ringing out, men shouting, Elena moving like a shadow, using flashbangs improvised from fireworks to disorient, her precision saving lives even as she protected her own. Vince's turn was emotional, tears in his eyes as he recounted the op where he fled, leaving her to hold the line alone, his help turning the tide, subduing Harlan as police arrived. Post-raid, the town rallied around Elena, once doubtful neighbors offering help, the story making local news as Hero Mom Defends Home, though she shunned the spotlight, focusing on rebuilding. The anonymous letter arrived with a photo of her in uniform, a chilling reminder that her past wasn't buried, perhaps from a rival unit or corporate spies, setting up a cliffhanger where she gears up for the next battle, her farm a symbol of defiance. Expanding further to hit the mark, add internal monologues, detailed scenes, more twists. Deep within Elena's mind, doubts swirled, was she relapsing into the violence she fled? But Mateo's safety anchored her, his hugs a reminder of why she fought. Harlan's backstory emerged in court, a man broken by loss, his actions born from desperation but unforgivable. Another twist. Ms. Hargrove, the social worker, was Harlan's sister, her visits biased, exposed by Mills' investigation, leading to her dismissal. The syndicate letter mentioned Project Eagle, a code name from her military days, suggesting a link to a former enemy, perhaps a terrorist cell she thought dismantled, now in business attire, targeting her for revenge through land grabs. As the story closes, Elena stands tall, rifle in hand, ready for whatever comes, her quiet life a facade for the warrior within. In a world where the underdog fights back with deadly precision, dive into the thrilling tale of a mother's wrath unleashed. Subscribe now for more edge of your seat stories that blend action, suspense, and unbreakable spirit.